Welcome to Mythical Phylogeny Adventures. I'm your guide, Jason. There are many heroes in mythology who have achieved incredible feats, besting fierce monsters, finding powerful relics, saving the princess. But what about one known for his beauty? I present to you the original pretty boy, Diarmuid. My god, I'm going to butcher a few of these pronunciations. I am sorry. Our hero comes from Irish mythology. His full name is Diarmuid au Duban, which means grandson of Duban, but more commonly called Diarmuid of the Love Spot. Yep, he had a beauty mark, a mole. But more on that later. We need to talk about his parents. His mother's name is either Crocron, Crocnat, or Crocnuit, depending on the translations. But more important, she was the daughter of the Irish king, Cathar Mór. But Diarmuid's father is where things get interesting. Usually he is said to be Don, god of the dead. Yep, we got ourselves another demigod. Though he doesn't stick around. He was banished due to a few events. But Diarmuid wasn't neglected. He was then partially raised by Agnes Og, one of the Tuatha De Danann. Yeah, a god. He oversees summer, youth, and love. Okay, now we can talk about Don being banished. Diarmuid's mother had an affair with a commoner, Roch Diocan. Now Agnes accepted the stepson as well under his roof. But Don didn't care for that, and he kills the boy in secret. But the Tuatha De Danann have magic, and were able to deduce the truth. Roch wanted Diarmuid put to death as punishment, an eye for an eye and a son for a son. But Agnes prevents that. Roch then seeks out a druid, who resurrects his son as a boar, and curses the boar to eventually kill Diarmuid, though that will take some time. In some tales, Diarmuid would make a gias, or pact, that he would never pierce the hide of a boar. In time, Diarmuid would go on to gain fame, including fighting a wild ox for 7 days and nights, and was charming with women. He would go hunting with a fianna, or a warrior band, or hunting party. They would be out so long that they had to camp out overnight. But as they wandered, they found a house in which lives an old man, his daughter, and a few animals, a cat and a wether, which means goat or sheep. They celebrate, and each in turn attempts to wrestle the sheep and fails. And then the cat brings down the sheep, for the sheep has the strength of the world and is life itself, and the cat is the personification of death. As they lay down for the night, the men of the hunting party attempt to seduce the young woman, who is the personification of youth itself. Yet, depending on the version, she doesn't reject Diarmuid completely and blesses him with a magical love spot, a ball Circe. Now, sometimes, this story and the next will become mixed. During a deep winter night, a woman comes and knocks on the door of the hunting party's home, and this woman is ugly to the extreme. It is cold, and she asks for a bed. All the men decline, except for our hero Diarmuid. And then she makes more and more requests, each getting more outrageous, but he complies. Come the morning, they awaken to find that the ugly old woman has turned into a gorgeous young woman. And a house with servants appears on a hillside. Food is ready for the hunters. And Diarmuid asks the woman to move into the house with him and his greyhound. The dog is important. And she agrees to move in with him, so long as he does not mention how ugly she looked when they first met. At least not 3 times. Now, Diarmuid's dog had just recently given birth to 3 puppies. While Diarmuid is out, the woman agrees to give up one of the puppies. And when Diarmuid gets back, he gets furious and speaks about the woman being ugly. It hurts her emotionally. But come the next 2 days, she does it again! And again, Diarmuid once more recalls her vile appearance. Upon the 3rd time, the woman and the house vanishes, and the greyhound dog dies. Very sad. Honestly, I can't blame him for being mad. It was his dogs that she gave away. Chances are, he already had someone he planned on giving the dogs to. If she had only spoken with him before giving them away, I'm sure he would have understood. And this is the truth of relationships. Communication is important for both of them. Soon Diarmuid begins to search for his lady, goes out into the ocean, and then under it, to a place called the Land Under the Waves. As he walks, he finds 3 congealed drops of blood. Then he meets the king, whose daughter has just returned, She had been cursed for the past 7 years, but now has a horrible illness which none can cure. And there are 2 factors here. 1. The drops of blood she shed when she thought about Diarmuid on her trip home. And the second, the cure for her illness can be found in the Plains of Wander, ruled by the King of Mag on Aon the Ganaid. So Diarmuid set off and gains a traveling companion in what could be called a dwarf or fairy, a small reddish man. They eventually reach the king's fort, and he sends out his army when Diarmuid asks for the cup. After many hours of battle, our demigod is victorious. Then the king remembers a prophecy and surrenders the cup from there. Our red dwarf warns Diarmuid that curing the princess's illness will cause her to forget him, and he accepts that. But the dwarf also asks him not to accept the treasure the king offers, instead only for a ship to return home. And Diarmuid does exactly that. And for all of that, his dog comes back to life. And now we get to what is Diarmuid's most well-known story. Another legendary figure of Celtic mythology was Fionn, who had been alone since his wife's passing. His son Oisin offers to go and bring him any woman he desires. A druid recommends Granny, the daughter of the High King, Cormac mac Airt. Now these 2 figures had some issues. At first, Granny agrees until she met Fionn in his old age. Now she did no magic and used enchanted wine to put everyone to sleep except Diarmuid. She asks him to elope with her, but he refuses, until she uses a charm spell to compel him. Now there is another variant. In some tales, Diarmuid has a gios, or a binding pact on him, which means that he must always fulfill any request made of him by a woman. So when Granny asked him to run away, he was caught between breaking his vow and being put on the run, so they flee. But the princess isn't that fit and fatigues. But he wants her to turn back. So she requests that he find a horse for her to ride, and again, he must do her request. Now Fionn was pissed when he woke up, and began hunting the 2 of them to the ends of the earth. And he brings many of the old hunting party along, some under threats. Though Diarmuid's friends do offer to help him escape, and that includes his stepfather Ignis, but our hero refuses. Yet Ignis does take Granny to safety. Diarmuid appears before Fionn and then escapes. During their flee, Diarmuid would battle against Fionn's growing forces, and they would even get trapped a few times, only to escape by the narrowest of margins. Now, there is a few things that we need to look at. At each camp, Diarmuid would leave a piece of raw meat or fish. This was to symbolize that he had not slept with Granny, at least for a time. Eventually, they did get it on, and she became pregnant. Fionn would go and ask the old nurse, Bodmar, and she uses a flying water lily to get above Diarmuid and throws poison darts at her target. But he was able to bring her down. Eventually, Fionn would pardon the couple, but only after Ungus Og, god of love, would intercede. In time, the couple would have 4 sons and their daughter. After years, Fionn would invite Diarmuid to visit. Sometimes it was reversed. Together, they would hunt a powerful boar, Ben Bolben, which had already slain several men and hounds. During the battle, either by accident or the pact that Diarmuid had made not to stab a boar, he is injured and lays bleeding out. Now Fionn had the power to heal wounds by having someone drink water from his hands due to his magic thumb. But as he is carrying the water back, an old wound opens about the loss of Granny, and he spills the water. He tries a second time, but his hands are shaking from his bitterness. On the 3rd attempt, his own son Oisin threatened him and made sure that his father would not spill the water. But they are too late. Diarmuid had passed away, and his killer is the son of Rock, who had been turned into a boar all those years ago. His stepfather Ignis would bring the remains to his home and use magic to speak with him when he needed. Granny would live the rest of her life in sorrow. Thus ended the beautiful life of Diarmuid. But before we finish, we do need to speak about his weapons. The most important is Gae Budi, the yellow spear, and Gae Durg, the red spear, which inflicts curse wounds, which will not heal without magic. Then there are his swords, Moraltak, the great fury, and Beagletak, the little fury, which will leave no blow unfinished. Some interpret that to mean it is unbothered by armor. Lastly, we have Crane Budi, the yellow shaft, which grants the wielder the ability to leap over obstacles. All of them are pretty useful to be sure. What do you think of our beautiful hero adventurer? Honestly, he is rather straightforward. He doesn't lie or cheat, he keeps his temper. Rarely do we see him start yelling at people, except when they do something to wrong him, like giving away his dogs. Much of his trouble does come from women. One leaves him after he does lose his temper, which I can understand. And the other is a woman getting cold feet and fleeing from a marriage. And this drags on for years. And I can partially understand this, either by her magic or his oath compelling him to do so. And this is similar to Ku Kulon, also in Celtic mythology, who falls mostly because of his Gias Pax, stripping him of his powers. Though Diarmuid does follow the same tropes we see in many other heroic tales. He defeats whole armies alone, and achieves incredible feats like invading armies for years, and his magic weapons. He does luck into a few situations though, and is rewarded for being generous and kind. Overall, I would say that he is a fine addition to the list of great heroes in mythology. He is far from the strongest, or smartest to be sure. Yet, he is one of the most loyal to his oath, even resisting Rennie's attempts at seduction for a while. Hey, wouldn't you eventually surrender to the charms of a woman while you are fleeing for your life? I know I wouldn't resist for that long. Would you? Thank you for watching, adventurers. Please return next time. Until then, I'll see you on the roads.